The morning sun is a pale lemon wash against the floral curtains. I smooth the front of my cardigan. The soft, worn wool is a comfort under my fingers. I should be enjoying a quiet retirement, but old habits die hard, like stubborn weeds in a garden. The house is quiet now. It is a deep, settled quiet that soaks into the furniture. It's been quiet for a very long time. My gaze drifts to the wall over the mantelpiece. A faded crimson pennant hangs there. It is limp and dusty. It's from Hank's senior year. That was the last time he was truly happy. 1989. He was the star quarterback then. He was the undisputed king of a small town. The fabric is worn thin now. The felt letters spelling out "Vittory" are curled at the edges. They look tired. It is a relic from a different life, a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. I lost my season tickets last year. I looked everywhere for them. I am sure I just misplaced them somewhere between the house and the car. Debbie thinks I'm getting forgetful. She uses a gentle voice when she says it. Maybe she's right. Little things seem to float away from me lately. It's funny the things you hold on to. It is also strange, the things that slip away. My boys. I think about them all the time. They are the first thought in the morning. They are the last thought at night. Hank and Dale, as different as dusk and dawn. Hank was the fire. He was all explosive energy and reckless charm. He had a smile that could talk you into anything. It was a brilliant, flashing thing. But he also had a temper that could curdle milk in a heartbeat. I remember him as a little boy. He once threw his baseball glove onto the roof. It was because he missed a catch. He stood in the yard shouting at it for a solid 10 minutes. Then he flashed that grin at me and my anger just melted. That was his power. Dale was my quiet one. He lived inside books and ideas. His mind was a gentle river. Hank's mind was a flash flood. Dale would spend hours in his room. He built intricate models of airplanes and ships. He read books I had never even heard of. He would try to explain them to me. His eyes would light up with the sheer joy of knowledge. He got a scholarship to Auburn. It was a world away from our little town. It was his ticket out. We were all so proud of him. I thought he was the one who had escaped. Hank stayed. He was a big fish who never understood the pond was shrinking. He kept swimming in smaller and smaller circles. He expected the same applause he always got. A sharp pain, like a hot poker, jabs right in the center of my chest. It steals my breath for a second. Just old age, I tell myself. A bit of heartburn from last night's supper. I ate too late. I always do. I get up and walk to the window. My joints protest with a series of small clicks. I watch the empty gravel drive for Debbie's car. The story always comes back to the football. In Alabama, it always does. It's more than a game here. It is woven into the very fabric of our lives. It's a religion, a war, a reason for being. And for my family, it was a reckoning. It was the altar on which everything was sacrificed. The signs were bad from the kickoff, as they say. It was the week of the Iron Bowl, back in the early 90s. Alabama was having a great season under Coach Stallings. The whole state was buzzing about the national title. You could feel it in the air. It was a kind of electric madness. Every conversation on every street corner was about the game. Hank was in a foul mood that week. His world had narrowed to a single point of rage. His girlfriend Vicky had just dumped him over the phone. I was in the kitchen when he took the call. I heard his voice change. It went from a low murmur to a wounded roar. He yelled into the receiver. The veins in his neck stood out like cords. She told him she wouldn't take his crap any longer. Those were her exact words. I heard them clearly from the other room. Wise girl. She was smarter than all the others who had come before her. She'd gone into hiding shortly afterwards. Her mother told me she went to stay with an aunt in a different state. My Hank didn't take kindly to rejection. His heart was too big, I always said. That was my excuse for him. He felt things too deeply. That's what I told myself then. It was easier than admitting the truth. The truth was that his pride was a fragile, monstrous thing. It could not bear a single scratch. Dale was home from Auburn for the Thanksgiving holiday. The house felt more peaceful just having him there. He was supposed to be studying for his engineering exams. His books were spread all over the dining room table. I can still see the complex diagrams. I made him go with Hank that day. I was afraid of what Hank might do. Left to his own devices, he had a look in his eye I had not seen before. It was a flat, dead kind of fury. I was afraid he might do something even more desperate than usual. I can still hear my own voice. It was tight with a pleading I was not proud of. I went into the dining room. Dale looked up from his textbook. He seemed so calm and focused. I hated to disturb that peace. I said, "Dale, honey, I need you to do something for me." He closed the book. He gave me his full attention. He was always good that way. I told him Hank was going out. I told him about Vicky. I told him I was worried. Dale sighed. He knew what was coming. He said, "Mama, I have to study. These exams are everything." I knew they were. But my fear for Hank was bigger. It eclipsed everything else. "You're the only one he listens to, Dale," I'd said. "He'll be more careful if you're around." It was a terrible lie. I knew Hank listened to no one, but I was desperate. Poor old Mum, wrong as always. With Hank, it was actually everyone else who had to be careful. Very careful. Dale saw the look on my face. He saw the tears welling in my eyes. He finally agreed. He put his books away slowly. He looked like a man heading to his own execution. I picture them in that dingy bar, the Crimson Corner. The air would have been thick with cigarette smoke and spilled beer. They would be sinking the first of many pints. Dale, miserable, staring into his glass. The afternoon and evening stretching ahead like a prison sentence. He didn't even like football. He called it a bunch of grown men chasing a leather egg. He would have preferred to be studying quietly in his room. He would want to be surrounded by his schematics and equations. The clean logic of numbers was his refuge. Not that he would ever share that thought with any of Hank's companions. They wouldn't have understood. They were a rough bunch. They were old high school teammates who never quite left the glory days behind. Their lives had peaked at 18. Now they just relived that peak over and over again. I can see them toasting each other. I can hear the usual bellowed chant. It would make their presence known to everyone else in the place. "One for all and all for one!" Tattooed fingers clutching beer glasses. The glasses looked like the weapons they all too often became before the night's end. The other fans in the place, men old enough to be their fathers, cheering them on. They saw Hank and his boys as their champions. It was a kind of madness that swept through the town on game days. It was a permission slip for grown men to act like savage children. And then there was Skeeter. Every gang has a Skeeter, I suppose. He is the weak one who makes the others feel strong. The village idiot, guaranteed to make his associates look and feel good. His real name was Marvin. I don't think I heard anyone call him that, not once. He was weedy and caught a lot of colds. He wore thick glasses that were always sliding down his nose. He was constantly pushing them back up with a greasy finger. Hank and his friends treated him with merciless derision. He was their court jester. They'd send him for another round and then trip him on the way back. They'd laugh as he scrambled to pick up the spilled drinks. He would apologize profusely as if it were his fault. But they enjoyed having him around. He was their mascot. He was their punching bag. Whenever I forced Dale to go along, Skeeter would immediately latch onto him. He seemed to have a radar for Dale's discomfort. He saw Dale not as a brainy college kid. He saw him as Hank's brother. He was a portal to the inner circle he so desperately wanted to join. He liked to scoff at Dale for his lack of insider knowledge. He would lecture him on player statistics and team history. "Core, didn't you even know that?" He'd jeer. His voice was thin and reedy. It cut through the noise of the bar. Dale told me later how Henry would get this look. It was a tightening around his eyes. It was like he wanted to smash Skeeter's head against the nearest brick wall. But Dale always managed to steer his hapless companion out of earshot. He would distract Skeeter before the explosion came. He was a good boy, my Dale. Always the peacemaker. He spent his whole life trying to put out the fires. Hank started. The noise and aggression in the bar kept ratcheting upwards with every round. The talk got louder. The laughter got meaner. Finally, the mob spilled out onto the street. The air was cold. It smelled of impending rain and cheap beer. I imagine Hank bellowing everyone into silence. He was reasserting himself as their leader. He had that power, a dark charisma that drew people in and held them captive. His crew went quiet instantly. They looked at him with a mix of fear and adoration. Subdued, they began to stalk through the lunchtime crowds. They moved like some dangerous, multi-headed organism. In my mind's eye, I see my Dale. He is trailing at the back of the pack. He would have been pulling his collar up against the chill. He would have been praying that no isolated Auburn fan would wander into their path. He told me once, in a moment of drunken honesty years later, what they called it. The memory made him shudder even then. "This is what Hank calls search and destroy," Skeeter had explained to him. A dribble of something horrible was on his chin. "Just like we're in the SAS, get it?" Skeeter was so proud to be part of it. He puffed out his narrow chest. "Shut up, you!" Hank had ordered. His voice was like cracking ice. He gazed at Skeeter with pure contempt. Then he turned to Dale. His expression softened just a fraction. It was a change so small only a brother would notice. "Tell me if he's bothering you, Dan," he said. He always called Dale Dan when he was trying to be a good big brother. It was a name from their childhood. It was a password to a time before everything got so complicated. "You okay?" Hank asked. His eyes were searching Dale's face. "Say it, Dale." That's what he told me. He was screaming inside his own head. "No, I'm not okay. I'm scared witless and want to go home." "It's not as if I'm part of your gang. I don't even like football. It has long been accepted by the whole family that I have the brains. You are the head case street fighter. You get on with what you do best, broth, and I'll go back to my books." but he didn't say a word of it. He saw the look in Hank's eyes. He saw the look in Hank's eyes. He saw a flicker of the lost little boy who used to follow him around. He remembered his stupid promise to me. "I'm fine," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "Good," Hank said. The hardness came back into his face. He turned away from Dale. He faced the street ahead. "Let's go!" To Dale's immense relief, the police were out in force in the city center. Their blue uniforms were a comforting sight. The visiting Auburn supporters were encircled. They were almost outnumbered by officers as they made their yelling, hand-clapping way to the ground. The opportunities for mayhem proved to be strictly limited. There were a few small skirmishes at the edges of the crowd. There was some shouting across the police lines. A thrown bottle or two arced through the air and smashed on the pavement. But it was nowhere near the total warfare required to satisfy Hank and his followers. They were like wolves who had been denied their hunt. Because of that, Dale could tell his brother was still riding on a high, black cloud. They were settled in for the night back at the Crimson Corner. The whole crew was angry and frustrated. Their energy had nowhere to go. It curdled into something ugly. I wasn't there, but I heard about it later. People talked about that night for weeks. There were several short-lived but bloody scuffles inside the bar. Men from their own town were targeted for looking at them the wrong way. There was the sound of screams and shattering glass. The bar's bouncers, big men themselves, struggled to maintain an uneasy peace. Dale, bolder now with what seemed like gallons of beer sloshing inside him, stayed close to his brother. He felt a strange new courage. He told me he actually pushed Hank away from a confrontation at one point. He shoved his own big brother. He put his body between Hank and some poor man who had made an innocent comment. The bar went silent. Every eye turned to them. "Cor, did you see that?" Skeeter's voice was a shocked falsetto. It was filled with awe. For one bowel-melting second, Dale thought Hank was going to hit him. He saw Hank's shoulders tense. He saw his fists clench. He braced himself for the blow. But then his brother gave a chip-toothed grin. It was sudden and surprising. "Nice one, Dan," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'll be sure to tell Mom you're watching out for me." The others roared with laughter. The tension in the room snapped. Hank punched Dale playfully in the stomach. The blow was harder than he intended. Dale said he almost doubled over, trying not to puke, but he went along with the joke. He forced a laugh. He laughed with them. He felt like one of them just for a moment. Things quietened down after that. It was as if everyone took their cue from their leader's sudden good humor. They even began to laugh about the day's missed opportunities. They started boasting of what they would do to the next bunch of wankers they came across. Dale, through an alcoholic fog, vowed to be miles away when that happened. He felt the beer wearing off. The fear was starting to creep back in. Skeeter was looking especially pleased with himself. He was glowing with reflected glory. Dale had seen him get in several sly punches during the fighting. He had hit men who were already on the ground. Now the skinny one was talking him through the complexities of gang life. He had an added assurance in his voice. "No, stupid, you have to drink it in one go, like this," he demonstrated with his own beer, spilling most of it down his chin. Dale was just grateful the general hubbub kept Skeeter's words from reaching Hank. He tried to tune out the reedy voice. He just nodded and smiled. When Hank started on the whiskeys and grew maudlin, Dale told himself his job was almost done. This was an occasional ritual on match days. It was a familiar part of the script, his brother bemoaning the loss of his latest girlfriend, forgetting his earlier threats to find the girl and do unspeakable things. He'd inform the whole pub about how much he loved his Mand or Shannon or Vicky. He would list her virtues to a captive audience. He would weep into his glass. Dale just had to wait it out. Soon, Hank would be too drunk to stand. Then Dale could get him home. Almost before Skeeter opened his mouth, Dale said he felt sure that something terrible was about to happen. A cold dread washed over him. He had the urge to move away very quickly. "Never mind, Henry," Skeeter giggled. His glasses were waggling on his nose. He swayed on his feet, drunk and full of foolish courage. "Plenty more slags where she came from." Silence. A profound, ringing silence fell over the table. The only sound was a beer tap dripping into a sink somewhere behind the bar. Dale knew if his brother uttered one word against Skeeter at that moment, the poor fool would end up as another sort of puddle. He would be splattered over the dirty wooden floor. He held his breath. He watched Hank's face. He prayed. But Hank just smiled. A slow, lazy smile. It spread across his face like oil on water. It did not reach his eyes. His eyes were cold and flat. They were like chips of stone. "Nice one, Shake," he said. His voice was soft. It was almost gentle. There was some disappointed-sounding laughter from the group. Several of the gang had obviously been hoping for a last ruck to end the day. They looked let down. Skeeter, appreciating his lucky escape, cackled louder than anyone. He thought he had made a good joke. He thought he was finally one of the boys. When the pub closed, Hank and several of the others said they were going off to get some food from the late-night diner. Dale, feeling ill with drink and relief, made his excuses. He said I'd be waiting up. He told them I would be anxious for his news. It was a plausible lie. As he glanced back to the little group staggering off into the dark, he saw that Hank had one powerful arm around Skeeter's skinny shoulders. It looked almost like a brotherly gesture. It was the same way Hank had held him, Dale, years ago when he was scared of the dark. The image burned itself into Dale's mind. Skeeter was never seen again. At first, no one thought much of it. Not really. People like Skeeter, with no family to speak of, they could drift. They were ghosts even when they were alive. A few of the crew asked about him for a week or two. Hank just shrugged. He said he'd probably run off with some girl, or maybe he'd found a job somewhere else. The explanations were casual and easily accepted, but Dale knew. He didn't know how he knew, but he didn't know how he knew, but he did. The truth settled in his gut like a cold stone. It was a heavy, indigestible fact. He started losing weight. The food at the Auburn cafeteria tasted like ash. He couldn't sleep. He'd just stare at the ceiling of his dorm room back at Auburn. He saw that final image on a loop. Hank's arm around Skeeter's shoulders. The slow, terrible smile on Hank's face, the darkness swallowing them both. He came home a month later for the Christmas break. He looked like a ghost. His clothes hung off his frame. There were dark circles under his eyes. He tried to bring it up. He sat in the kitchen with me while I was snapping beans for dinner. The rhythmic snap, snap, snap was the only sound. He kept starting sentences and then stopping. His voice was thin and reedy, just like Skeeter's had been. I thought he was just stressed about his classes. Auburn is a tough school, academically. I remembered the pressure of my own school days. I told him to get more rest. I told him to eat more. I made him his favorite pie. I treated the symptom, blind to the disease. The real break happened a year later. It was a slow, agonizing slide. Dale had dropped out of school by then. The scholarship was gone. The bright future had evaporated. He was living at home. He was working a dead-end job at the hardware store. He smelled of sawdust and defeat. He'd started hanging around with Hank and his crew again. I thought he was just lonely. I thought he was trying to find his place. Now I know he was looking for something else. Now I know he was looking for something else. He was a detective investigating a crime only he believed had happened. He was looking for confirmation. He needed to know he wasn't going mad. One night in the Crimson Corner, he brought up the subject of the murder in a loud voice. He had been drinking for hours. The words just came spilling out. Hank, alarmed, pulled him to one side. He warned him to keep his trap shut. His grip on Dale's arm was like iron. Dale told me he could see Hank glaring around at the others. He was trying to work out which of them had leaked the secret. His eyes were full of paranoia and menace. Later that night, one of the guys, a boy named Bobby who was too drunk to care about Hank's wrath, confided in him. He pulled Dale into a corner near the foul-smelling restrooms. Henry was shouting, "Kick his head in! Kick his head in!" Bobby said. He was looking into Dale's eyes with an uneasy smirk. He seemed to find the memory funny. He couldn't stop laughing. Bobby's words were the final nail in the coffin of Dale's sanity. Dale learned they'd buried Skeeter in the woods out past the old quarry. It was a place where they used to drink as teenagers. Since the murdered youth had no family or friends outside the crew, no one at all to miss him, there'd been nothing in the papers or on TV. It was a perfect crime. A boy had been erased from the world, and no one had noticed. Except for Dale. He was suffering the consequences. They, the crew, had done the wicked deed, but he was the one being punished. It couldn't have been less fair. He wasn't a hooligan. He didn't even like football. He stopped even pretending to look for work. There didn't seem much point. Getting up in the morning was a monumental effort. He just hung around with Hank and his gang. He did it for the company. He did it in the hope that one day someone else would display the same symptoms. The apprehension and the sweaty agitation, the constant looking over the shoulder, anything to prove it wasn't just him, to prove he wasn't going round the bend. But the others seemed fine. They laughed and drank and lived their lives. Only Dale was haunted. He told me about it years after Hank was gone too. After a car accident finally did what no man ever could. Dale sat in this very chair. He described it in a flat, exhausted voice. The apparition, the specter, whatever its proper title was. Skeeter. He wasn't with Dale all the time. That almost made it worse. The awful anticipation of waiting for it to appear was its own torment. He'd be in class, back when he was still trying to go to college. He would feel a sudden chill, or he would be walking down the street. He would catch a movement in his peripheral vision. Suddenly, it would be there. It would be leering at him from a storefront window, its face pressed against the glass. One time, when he was riding on a bus, the thing kept pace with them for more than a mile, bounding past unsuspecting pedestrians as Dale prayed for it to go away. It's here that the story splinters in my mind, where the tragedy of it all becomes something else. Dale would describe it, and I would try to picture it. My mind would just refuse. He saw things that were not there. He would be talking to me right here in this living room. His eyes would flick to the corner. His face would go slack with a familiar terror. He'd gesture at the empty air. He said it was smiling at him, joining in with the fun. It was less than 6 inches from his elbow at times, he'd whisper. He was closer to tears than I'd ever seen him. He tried reasoning with it. He told me he'd say, "Henry is the one you should be haunting. He's to blame for all your problems." But it just continued to watch him. It was sneering in the old familiar way. Then he'd get angry. He would shout at the empty space beside him. "Look, Skeeter, I never really liked you. In fact, I hated your guts. Bugger off." But it didn't work. The shouting never worked. He tried to run from it. He would be in the middle of a sentence. Then he would just dash out of the house. He would run with his unseen oppressor in close pursuit. Henry and the others were amused but not surprised by his antics. They had seen it all before. "Just another nutter in the crew," they'd say. I was convinced he'd gone the way of his brother. 2 sons, both lost to a kind of madness, one to rage, one to fear. He considered taking the running away option to extremes. "I'll borrow money off you," he told me once. His eyes were wild. "I'll catch a plane to the other side of the world." Then his face fell. The hope drained out of him. He wondered how he would feel. Waking up in a hotel room in Sydney or Auckland, he would see Skeeter grinning at him from the top of the TV, or springing around his bed. Better not to know for certain that escape was impossible. There were periods of relief. Days, even whole weeks, when the phantom failed to appear. He would wander around in a fever of hope then. He would almost dare it to show itself. Once or twice he even started to believe that Skeeter was gone. He thought the only part of him that counted now had finally vanished. He had pictures in his mind. The thing was making its way back to the secret burial ground. It was reattaching itself for good to the remainder of the corpse. But Skeeter always retained the ability to turn up. He turned up where he wasn't wanted, and Dale would curse his luck again. He would say to himself, "But I don't even like football." The thing rushed towards him. Bounce, bounce, bounce. It always looked as if it was about to put him right, to correct him on some point of hooligan protocol. "Just the head," he told me at the end. His voice was a bare whisper. It was complete with glasses, and that know-it-all smirk. Just a head. It was bouncing. I smoothed the front of my cardigan. The fabric is soft and worn. Debbie is here now. I didn't even hear her pull up. She is standing over my chair. Her face is wet with tears. She puts her hand on my cheek. Her skin is so cold. She looks so very sad. I wonder why she's crying. It's just an old story. The hot poker pushed through my chest. But I know he has. I have heard him, even if he is unaware. The guttural yells at the television screen, the roars of frustration that seem to shake the room. He must be doing it when I am not home, or maybe even in his sleep, living out the game in his dreams. The obsession is consuming him, wearing him out from the inside, and he doesn't even realize he is doing it. That thought, more than anything else that has happened, makes a profound and terrible kind of sense. It connects everything. His forgetfulness about the back door, his carelessness that could have kicked the pennant into the hall, the angry man on the phone, a phantom from a bet that Arthur himself made and then completely forgot. It all points to him. My poor, poor Arthur. He is slipping away from me, getting lost in the ghost of a football game from decades ago. A great wave of pity and warmth washes over me, drowning the last of my fear. I know what I am dealing with now. It is not an intruder or a ghost. It is my husband's unraveling mind. My neighbor, Brenda, comes over for coffee on a bright, cold Wednesday morning. She is 30 years younger than me, a kind soul with bright, perpetually worried eyes. We sit in my warm kitchen, a plate of cinnamon buns I baked between us, their sweet, spicy scent hanging in the air. For an hour, things feel normal. We talk about the weather, about the upcoming holidays. Then she leans forward, her mug cupped in her hands, and her expression turns serious. Her voice is low. "Is Arthur all right, Eleanor?" A fine prickle of chill dances across my arms despite the warmth of the kitchen. I arrange my face into a careful, neutral expression. "He's fine. Why do you ask?" Brenda hesitates, chewing on her lower lip. "It's just, I heard so much shouting from your house last night. Well, not just last night. It happens a lot." She gives a small, nervous laugh, trying to soften the words. "It sounds like a whole stadium in here sometimes." I know how seriously he takes his football, but wow. The coffee cup trembles in my hand, rattling against the saucer. The sound is deafeningly loud in the quiet kitchen. Last night, I was at my book club meeting until 10. Arthur was already asleep in his armchair when I got home, the house completely silent. He could not have been shouting. I was not even here to hear it. Then a profound, dizzying relief washes over me. It is so powerful it makes my head swim. A warmth spreads through my chest, loosening the knot of fear that has been lodged there for weeks. It is not me. I am not imagining it. I am not losing my mind. Brenda heard it too. The words pour out of me in an unstoppable torrent. I tell her everything. The late-night crowd noise, the muddy cleats on the floor, the missing football, the pennant in the hallway. I do not mention the phone call from Mikey. That feels like a betrayal of Arthur that I am not ready to make, not out loud. Brenda listens patiently, her brow furrowed with deep, sincere concern. When I finally fall silent, drained and breathless, she offers, "My ex-husband was like that with golf. Obsessed. It's like they're not even there anymore, you know? Just living in the game." Her sympathy is a balm, a warm, soft blanket. For the first time in months, I do not feel alone in this cold house. "The next big Syracuse game is on Saturday," she says, her voice firm with purpose. "I'll come over. We can watch it together. A buffer," she adds with a small conspiratorial smile, "so you don't have to deal with it by yourself." The relief is so intense, I feel tears well in my eyes, hot and sudden. I grip her hand across the table. Her skin is warm and solid and real. "Thank you, Brenda," I whisper, my voice thick. "Thank you." On Saturday, I spend the entire day in a state of hopeful anticipation. I bake a lemon cake, filling the house with its bright, clean scent. I clean until every surface sparkles. The fear is still there, a low hum beneath the surface of my thoughts, but it is overshadowed by the prospect of an ally, a witness. The afternoon light begins to fade, and the sky turns a deep, bruised purple. 4 o'clock comes and goes. The clock in the hall chimes 5. Brenda does not arrive. By 6, the lemon cake sits untouched on the counter, a monument to my foolish hope. A cold dread begins to creep back into the corners of the room, reclaiming its territory. I call her house. The phone rings and rings 10 times, 12 times, an endless unanswered summons until the automated message kicks in. I hang up, my palms slick with a cold sweat. Arthur is in the den, but the television is off. He is just sitting in his armchair in the growing dark, staring at the blank wall where the pennant hangs. He has not spoken a single word all day. I pull on my coat. The simple act of pushing my arms through the sleeves feels monumental, requiring an enormous effort of will. The air outside is bitingly, brutally cold. The short walk to Brenda's house next door feels like a journey of miles across a frozen wasteland. Her house is dark. No lights are on. It is a hollow, empty shape against the night sky. A large wooden sign has been hammered into her frozen front lawn. I pulled the small flashlight from my pocket. The beam of light is weak, but it catches the bold red letters, "For Sale." My blood turns to ice water in my veins. My breath comes in ragged, shallow gasps. I stumble back to my own house, the warmth of my kitchen doing nothing to chase away the chill that has settled deep in my bones. It is an internal winter. I find Brenda's sister's number on an old Christmas card from the year before. I dial, my fingers fumbling with the buttons, thick and useless. A woman answers, her voice sharp with impatience. "When I ask for Brenda, there is a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line. Brenda's moved," the sister says finally, her tone clipped and cold. "She was transferred." It was very sudden. "But she was just here," I say, my voice a desperate, cracking plea. "She was going to come over tonight. Is she okay?" "She just needed a change," the woman says, and there is something final and hard in her voice, a door slamming shut in my face. "I can't talk right now." She hangs up. The dial tone buzzes in my ear. I try the real estate agent's number from the sign. A cheerful, professional voice informs me that they cannot, for privacy reasons, give out any information about the previous owner. The line goes dead. I am alone again, utterly, completely, terrifyingly alone. The house is silent around me. The silence is the loudest sound I have ever heard. The weeks that follow are a slow, grinding erosion of the life I knew. Arthur is the first thing to go, not literally. He is still in the house, a quiet, hulking presence in the background of my days, his shoulders perpetually slumped. But he is gone all the same. He stops watching the games. He stops talking about them. The den, once the epicenter of his obsession, is now just a silent, dusty room that he never enters. He has retreated somewhere deep inside himself, a place where I cannot follow. He looks at me now with a strange, pitiable sadness in his eyes. It is the look one gives to the terminally ill, to the already lost. The silence in the house is a living thing. It breathes in the empty spaces between us, heavy and cold and suffocating. My own routines begin to fray at the edges, then unravel completely. I stop cleaning. A fine layer of gray dust settles on the polished wood of the dining room table. In the kitchen, the sink fills with dirty dishes. The air grows stale, sour with the smell of old coffee grounds and the faint, sweet odor of milk beginning to turn. Sleep becomes a foreign country I can no longer visit. I spend my nights in the living room armchair, a thin blanket pulled up to my chin, listening. I listen to the house groan and settle. I listen to the wind rattle the window panes. I listen for the roar of the crowd that now, terrifyingly, never comes. My right hand develops a tic. I find myself constantly pushing my glasses up the bridge of my nose, the knuckle of my middle finger pressing hard against the bone, again and again. Then, the cleat appears. I walk into the den one morning, and there it is, sitting in the exact center of the room, perfectly placed on the faded oriental rug. It is a single football cleat. It is not muddy or old. It looks brand new. The black leather is polished to a high, flawless sheen. The plastic spikes on the sole are clean and sharp and perfect. It is a man's size, impossibly large. It smells of nothing at all, a sterile void in the dusty air of the room. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic, trapped thing. I stare at it, at the sheer, blatant impossibility of its presence. It did not walk here. It was placed. I pick it up. The leather is cool and smooth in my hand. It feels heavy, solid, real. I storm into the bedroom where Arthur is getting dressed, his back to me. I hold it out to him, my hand shaking so badly the cleat rattles against my own wedding ring. What is this? I demand, my voice a choked, strangled whisper. The color drains from his face. He stares at the cleat as if it is a venomous snake I am holding. He physically shrinks back, raising his hands as if to ward off a blow. I've never seen that before in my life, Elle, he rasps, his voice raw with a terror that looks utterly real. I swear! I don't believe him. How could I? It has to be his. Another piece of his unraveling mind, another symptom of the sickness that has taken over our home. I snatch the cleat back and march outside, my bare feet numb on the frozen, frosted grass. I throw it into the metal trash can at the curb. The clatter of it hitting the bottom echoes in the cold, still morning air. A surge of bitter triumph courses through me. The next day, it is back in the exact same spot, in the center of the den rug, perfectly placed. It is unchanged, not a speck of dust on it. The laces tied in the same perfect bow. This time, I do not show Arthur. A cold, hard knot of something close to rage is forming in my chest. I take the cleat, get in my car, and drive 10 miles out of town. I throw it into a cavernous metal dumpster behind a grocery store. I watch the sanitation truck come and empty the dumpster the next morning, my car parked across the street. I watch the mechanical arm lift it, turn it upside down, and empty its contents into the grinding maw of the truck. I am sure. It is gone. When I get home, it is sitting on the den rug, waiting for me. After that, I stop trying to get rid of it. It becomes part of the geography of the room, a strange, silent monument to the madness that has infested my house. I walk around it, I dust around it. Sometimes I find myself just staring at it, trying to understand its silent, stubborn message. Arthur refuses to even enter the den anymore. Our house, once a sprawling, comfortable space, has shrunk to two small, separate islands of existence. The cold in the house is no longer just a feeling. It is a physical presence. The furnace runs constantly, a hollow rumble in the basement, but the rooms remain chilled. It is a deep, penetrating cold that sinks into my bones and stays there. The cold on the surface of my skin is a constant prickle, like wearing a shirt made of nettles. Underneath, my muscles feel stiff and chilled, slow to respond. Deeper still, the cold has settled into my joints, an ache that flares with every movement, and at the center of me, in my very bones, it is a dense, heavy cold, a core of solid ice that no furnace can ever hope to touch. Arthur has taken to locking himself in our bedroom for hours at a time. Through the door, I can hear the muffled sound of him weeping, a quiet, hopeless, broken sound. Tonight, I sit in the den, staring at the single, pristine cleat on the rug. The silence in the house is absolute. The house is holding its breath. I feel a strange pull, a compulsion I do not understand, an urge to find something I have lost. My father's football. The thought is clear and sharp in the fog of my exhaustion. I have to find it. I push myself up from the chair, my cold joints protesting with a series of small, sharp pains. I do not search the study or the closets this time. I know, with a sudden, chilling certainty that defies all logic, where I need to look. The attic. The air at the top of the pull-down stairs is the opposite of the rest of the house. It is thick, hot, and suffocating. The smell of cedar wood and old dry paper and hot plastic is overwhelming. I pulled a string for the single bare bulb, and the space is flooded with a weak yellow light. Dust motes dance in the beam like tiny, frantic insects. I move past old furniture draped in white sheets like sleeping ghosts, past cardboard boxes of holiday decorations and forgotten clothes. In the far corner, tucked under the eaves, is a large, dark green trunk. A steamer trunk. I have no memory of ever seeing it before. My fingers tremble as I work the brass latches. They are stiff. I lift the heavy lid. A wave of heat and the smell of old plastic and ozone rushes out to meet me. Inside, nestled on a bed of yellowed newspaper, is a VCR. It is identical to the one in the den. Beside it is a neat, towering stack of VHS tapes. My blood runs cold. I pick one up. They are all labeled in my own familiar, looping handwriting. Syracuse versus Nebraska 9-4, take 1. Syracuse versus Nebraska 9-4, take 2. Syracuse versus Nebraska 9-4, take 3. There are dozens of them. Take 17. Take 28, take 37. I do not remember writing these. I do not remember filming these, or buying these, or bringing this trunk up here. My mind is a blank, white, silent wall. I reach deeper into the trunk. My fingers brush against something wrapped in cloth. I pull it out. It is the faded orange and blue team pennant. It is stiff, as if it has been wrapped around something for a very long time. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely unfold it. Tucked inside its folds is my father's football. The leather is scuffed, but the signatures are still visible, and beneath it, something else. A single Polaroid photograph. I pick it up. The slick, square object feels alien in my fingers. The image is grainy, washed out by the camera's flash. It shows a person standing on a football field. It is the dead of night. The stadium lights are off. The shape is unmistakable against the dark gash of the empty bleachers. The person is wearing a full Syracuse football uniform. A helmet is tucked under one arm. One cleat is missing from their foot. A single socked foot on the turf. In their hands, they are holding my father's signed football. I bring the photo closer to my face, my breath held tight in my chest. The face in the photograph. I know that face. It is my face. I turn the picture over. My hand will not stop shaking. On the back is my writing. A single word is written there. The word is again. The attic is hot and silent. My breath makes no sound. My mind shows me everything. The shouting, Brenda heard. It was my own voice. The roaring of the crowd. It was coming from my throat. The cleat marks in the kitchen. They were my own muddy shoes. The house is quiet now. I hear Arthur crying. His voice was hoarse from pleading. He was pleading with me! Brenda moved away so fast. I remember her face, her terror. The man on the phone, he was not calling for Arthur. He was calling to beg me. He wanted me to stop. My father's football went missing. I see myself hiding it. The pennant fell in the hall. I remember dropping it. The single cleat on the rug, it is the one I am missing. It is mine. I know it now. I have to get it right.